Our seventh and final pattern of organization that we'll look at in Chapter 4 is the cause and effect pattern. This particular pattern you'll run into in just about every type of reading that you'll do. Cause and effect can equally apply to novels and the development of characters and actions, and it can equally apply to weather, scientific courses. It can lead to examination of historical events. No matter what the topic, it describes how one event led to or produced another, focusing on the causes or the effects. Many times the cause and effect is not a simple two-step process, but rather it's a chain reaction of events where one action happens to result in the effect of another, which becomes the cause of something new and different. Some of the key characteristics of the cause and effect pattern: the topic sentence explains how one event, which is the cause, led to or produced the other, which is the effect. So you'll see verbs like produces, generates, induces, causes, instigate. They're all going to be very common in this type of pattern. We also find a number of transitions in addition to those verbs that point out that we're looking at a cause and effect pattern, such as a result, consequently, in response to, therefore. You'll also find that cause and effect patterns make use of connectives. Because, as, due to, since are common in this pattern. Let's take a look at a sample paragraph. Bats in the Northeast are dying in catastrophic numbers. Biologists estimate that only 10% of the region's cave-dwelling bats are still alive. The cause of the bat's death seems to be a powdery white fungal infection called white nose syndrome, because bats suffering from the disease look as if their noses were covered by a thin layer of white gauze. A number of proposals are being circulated to prevent the disease from spreading, and all of them have very high price tags. But most states in the Northeast are taking the threat seriously, and they're willing to spend the money in order to prevent more bats from dying. Vermont, for instance, announced a $1.9 million appropriation to study the prevention of white nose syndrome, which may not be what actually kills the bats, but which seems to weaken them to such a degree that they can no longer hunt and then they end up dying of starvation. And those who think saving bats is not important enough of an issue to spend huge sums of money on need to think again. Bats kill insects. Without them, the crops are likely to suffer serious infestations of the destructive bugs. Mosquitoes and mosquito-borne illnesses could also prove a serious problem if the bats continue to die in huge numbers. And so the cause in this is that the bats are dying from this fungal infection. And so the effects of that is that people are spending a good deal of money to conduct research on this. Another effect, if this isn't resolved, is that crops are going to suffer because mosquito-borne illnesses will also start to increase. And so there are quite a few effects that are discussed in this paragraph. Now, when you're taking notes for cause and effects, make sure that you accurately paraphrase the cause and the effect relationship described in the topic sentence. Again, if you can put this in your own words, it's going to strengthen your memory. Use arrows or even arrows in boxes to indicate the chain and the causes of effects. Take a look at page 221, for example. On the bottom, you see an example where a certain cause initiates, and then it causes a chain reaction of all the effects that come after that. Make sure that your notes reflect the proportions of the paragraph. So if the author really emphasizes a lot of causes more than the effects, your notes should also show this type of proportion or balance. One of the easiest ways to take notes for the cause and effect pattern is to create a graphic organizer. If you take a look at the verbs on page 220, you'll see some that are very commonly used, and then you'll also see another chart that lists the transitions that you might also consider using as well. So this time, for your last effort, you have a choice of two different topics in your note-taking packet. You have smoking, so you'd have causes and effects, and then you have cities, which we can't really tell what the cause and effect is going to be just from that title. So that either one of those paragraphs are yours to use to create this cause and effect graphic organizer that you see depicted here. Once you finish your graphic organizer, then go ahead and proceed to exercise 7.